Hey everybody, Unstable Gamer here, and welcome back to the channel. Got some very cool information to go over today, and we're just going to jump right into it after I tell you about a little blunder. So I had an interview with Kabam just this last Friday, had a great time, great conversation, learned a lot about the game, Relics, Rift Raids, and I even asked some questions about kind of the direction that we're going. So unfortunately, in the process of troubleshooting some technical difficulties, some minor stuff really early on, and after doing some sound checks, I hit a few buttons to try and get rid of what I thought was an echo, and I thought I had done that, but by the time the interview was over, I went back to check the audio and everything, and you could hear me and my reaction to their answers. Unfortunately, we don't have them on audio, so that's why we're doing this in a little bit of a different format. We still have all the great information. The thing that we're missing, which is probably the biggest bummer for me, for all of you, is that as I was talking to Mark and to Danny, you can definitely hear the excitement and the passion that they have for the game and for the community, and the community's contribution in the way of feedback as well. That's kind of helped with some of the decisions and helped shape the game in the background as well. So, that's unfortunate, but we still have a ton of stuff going on. I'm going to go through all the information. We'll talk about it. And then later tonight, so it is September 26th right now, later tonight, myself, GuestGaming, and DefaultDan, we're getting together on stream, and we're going to talk about that interview. We're going to answer any questions that you may have, because there is a lot that we can talk about now. It is very cool. We did have an opportunity to play Rift Raids, and we want to share our experience with everybody there as well. So let's go ahead. I'm going to jump into the questions. The questions will appear below me as well, just so you can kind of see where we are in the conversation in case you pick this up a little bit later or fast forward or whatever. So Dan and, not Dan, but Mark and Danny. Mark is the executive producer of the game. His main job really is to remove big rocks, be there as a support for the team so the team can continue to move this game forward. Danny is the lead game designer. Very cool thing about Danny, they were a quest designer a little earlier in the, well, I think it was probably last year or something like that, not sure of the timeline, but just recently got promoted to lead game designer so very excited for them. They're having a great time with that, it seems. And their job really is to kind of, they know the ins and outs of the game, where the game is, where the direction of this game is going, and a lot of the reasons why we have the game modes that we're having and the direction that we're going as well. So a lot of cool stuff there. Had a great conversation with both of them. I asked them what their favorite game mode was, and both of them had mentioned that their favorite game mode really was the campaign, and they had mentioned the story and the development of that as you're going through it. And I can't agree more. I think the campaign is great. I think as you're working through the game, and you just kind of see this story unfold for the first time, I think is very cool. You see these relationships form between heroes and villains. And I thought it was really cool too, some of the side stories that you go on, like for instance, you have Maleficent and Belle that go off on their own. You have that little side mission there, and they have their little interaction also. So I think the care in crafting that story was very, very cool. I think they've done a great job with that. All right, so into the Rift Raid questions. So like I said, we did have an opportunity to play Rift Raid, so I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. But again, a lot of that's going to be later tonight. Again, September 26th. Keep an eye on the Twitch channel, because myself, Guest, and Dan will be on that as well. Rift Raid. So Al Lear, one of our mods from Discord, had asked kind of what their inspiration for Rift Raids was. And they really wanted to create, I think we've seen this in the dev diary too, they really wanted to create a game mode to bring people together, for a reason for being in an alliance, a competitive piece of the game that really wasn't there before. We had a little bit with some leaderboards and stuff, but now we have with Rift Raids, definitely a competitive piece within the alliance. I know that when we were in there, we were wanting to hurry up and get in there as quick as we can so we can get as many points as we can so we can top the leaderboard internally. But also you'll have leaderboards that pit alliances against alliances, and you want to get to the highest ranks there as well, so you can get the best reward. So they wanted something like that, but they also took some inspiration from another game they had, Marvel Contest of Champions, to kind of help them figure out what they wanted this game mode to be. So I thought that was pretty cool. So using kind of their own experiences internally with other games, and then just taking into account feedback that came from the community about wanting something that you're going to need to communicate and coordinate with, a good reason for being in an alliance. And this is going to be huge because Rift Raids is going to be your main source for gems, specifically T4 gems. Now, as we were running through this, now the reward structure may change. They mentioned this during the course of the interview, may change between what we saw in beta testing to when it launches. By the way, this Thursday, September 29th, as long as everything goes well, that's the planned release date, which is very cool. But some of the rewards may be rejiggered, so to speak. So I had asked that during testing, you have required traits. So for each character slot, each guardian slot, you have 2 traits. As you get to a certain point, one trait becomes required, and then the other trait is optional, right? I had asked if there's a point at which both slots are required, and the answer is yes. As you get, Danny had mentioned, they thought probably around tier 19. Again, this is something that could change, but they thought around tier 19 or so, and there's 30 tiers total, that both traits for each guardian slot will be required. So this is something also that you definitely want to take a look at your roster. You want a wide variety of guardians ready to go for Rift Raid. I think we've been talking about that for a long time. Hopefully you're ready. If not, definitely take some time between now and the 29th to get your roster ready. But yeah, we're going to have 2 required slots per guardian. So that's really going to limit the team. So again, the wider your roster, the more variety you're going to have in mixing and matching. And talking with Danny, that's kind of what their intent was they want people to use all of their guardians, right? I mean, it's just not the top 3 or the top 4 best guardians in the game. It's everybody's got to use. And I think that's something that we've found as well as we learn more and more and play around with the different characters. A lot of people have found what we have deemed kind of the lower tier type guardians. They've been successful with those guardians as well. So really kind of depends on your familiarity with the game and stuff. Let's see. And I also asked if traits change from Rift Raid to Rift Raid. So as we were going through it, your tiers, the traits for the different tiers stayed the same. So did the Sentinels and everything, all the way on up. I think we started around tier 5, went all the way up to tier 13, 14, I think, and the traits stayed the same. But they will change from event to event. Also, the Sentinels, I found out, the Sentinels will change as well. So something to keep in mind there as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right. Let's see. I had also asked that with now T4 gems being the main reason going to Rift Raids, what else can we expect from Rift Raids? Because we don't have T4 diamonds. The only place to get T4 diamonds really is the Laurel store, and then we have the event store. So at this time, really nothing right now is what I got from the interview. They are entertaining some ideas for some special event type Rift Raids, but really not a lot of information there. But they are keeping an eye on the feedback that's being provided for Rift Raids. So definitely as we go through this, make sure to give feedback. I'll have a link to the official Discord in the description below. Let's give them constructive feedback, something to work with, because they've proven, and this is something that's very cool that I've seen with them. I've been playing this game for over 2 years now, and a lot of the feedback that we've given, now they can't appease everybody, right? But a lot of the feedback that we've been given and any change that they've been able to implement that benefits the game and the community, they definitely do. I think we've seen that recently as well. Plus, I got some pretty cool stuff to talk about as we get a little further in this, but definitely make sure to get that feedback there. And then finally, as far as Rift Raids goes, I did ask kind of where do they see this game evolving, and I'll be honest, I don't recall everything that they said, but I do know that with this event, I mean, with Rift Raids, they see this as a long-term game mode to be competitive, alliance against alliance, a lot of stuff that they said early on in the developer diary. It was nice to see that they're entertaining maybe special event type Rift Raids, things like that. So I think as we continue to see this game mode unfold and the feedback that they see from the community, I think that will also shift the direction of Rift Raids. So I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of great stuff about Rift Raids. I had a lot of fun playing it. We'll talk about it more tonight during the stream, but it was a lot of fun. Next, we talked about Relics. So from one of our viewers, Dante had asked about T4 with T4 gems leaving dungeons. What else can we expect to see as far as dungeons go and rewards there? And one thing I did learn is that right now, at least from my understanding, is that the dungeon rewards are pretty much a one-for-one swap. Now, there is also a dev diary going out today with 2.0 updates. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link in the description below there. There's some adjustments that are being made with 2.0, and I think we'll see a few adjustments in there regarding moats and things like that in dungeons as far as rewards. So some things are getting changed in there. So definitely take a look at that dev diary on update 2.0. That's going live this week. Let's see, how many different relics to start? So I was trying to get an idea of how many relics we can expect in the game. And there's a lot of variety. You're going to be able to equip these. You're going to be able to salvage them for ore. You're going to be able to upgrade them. Upgrading them costs gold. We'll get to gold here in a little bit as well. But it's basically 4 slots. You can also, as you have like traits, you get bonuses. So a lot of cool stuff there. But as far as the total number of relics, they're saying that there's well over 1,000 different relics already in the game. So there's a lot of potential there, a lot of variety there. So very cool to see. Very cool to see kind of where that goes and what types of bonuses and benefits that we'll see for the different Guardians. So that'll be fun. I asked about what kind of power boost as well that we can expect to see. And it seems pretty significant. There are some stats, especially for the legendaries, that you're going to see a 30% boost in your stats. So I think relics are, I feel relics are a good addition to the game to help fine tune your Guardians, especially for this game mode to get you further up the different tiers in Rift Raids. So I think that was probably a good add-on to that. A question from Jones from our Discord is, other than through dungeons, are there other ways that we can expect to get relics? One thing they did say is that dungeons will be the main source of relics. I did also find out there will be packs for people who invest in the game as well, who are pay-to-play players. There will be packs and things available as well for that. As far as the bazaar, Mark did mention the bazaar. I just can't remember exactly what he said about it, but maybe there's some potential for there. But I think really the main focus is relics being farmed out of dungeons. So also you'll see in the update that the update notes that went live today that you'll, as you climb the different floors, you get higher and higher chances of getting better and better relics. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. All right. And then I also said, asked the question, let's see, so we've heard that there's no random stat boosts, right? So when you get a relic, you have specific stat boosts. Now, if you get 2 of the same type of relic and the same rarity of relic, then you're going to see the same stats. One thing that I did find out, though, is that your trait bonuses randomly generate. So even though the stats are static and they stay the same, trait bonuses have the potential to randomly generate. So if you get 2 of the same legendary ring or pendant or whatever, you could have the same stats, but maybe one has a different trait than the other. So that's something to keep an eye on as you gear up your Guardians. So pretty cool there. As far as relics goes, that's pretty much it as far as that. Then I really got into the different types of resources and things that we have in the game. As you upgrade relics, it costs gold. So I asked, as far as gold goes, what are their thoughts? What are some of the conversations they're having behind the scenes to help with gold? I also asked about energy too, because gold and energy are 2 big things. Other than T4 diamonds and gems, gold and energy has been one of the biggest pieces of feedback provided. It's great that we have Rift Raids with its own energy. That is awesome. Dungeon has its own energy as well, but when it comes to farming on a regular basis, we only have that 100 energy. So I had asked kind of what are their thoughts around that. Didn't get a whole lot around gold that I could recall, but as far as energy goes, there was some pretty cool stuff that Danny had mentioned. They mentioned about update 2.1. There could be something where being part of an alliance is going to benefit you from an energy standpoint. So when that was mentioned, it reminded me of kind of like being able to level up your alliance, and as you level up your alliance, you get access to different perks. I've seen this mechanic in different games, and maybe one of those perks could be additional energy. So there is something there. I don't know what that looks like, but that was very cool, and they did specifically mention update 2.1, so don't know when that's going to come out, but that was very cool. That was very encouraging, actually, in the way of energy. So that was mentioned, and then I got into a few selfish questions. At D23, we see a remake of Gargoyles coming out, and also there's a new comic coming out for Gargoyles. So I was just kind of curious, and as they choose different guardians and stuff, can we look forward to Gargoyles, right? And though there was not a yes or a no there, one thing I did find out is a lot of how they choose their guardians really they go in, they take a look, which guardians are gonna advance the story, which ones are going to fit in the story that they plan to tell, right? And I think the story kind of really drives a lot of that, more so than trying to pair up guardians with specific releases and stuff like that. Not to say that that won't or isn't happening, but I think really it's all about the story. And going back to that first question that I had for them early on in the interview, I thought that makes perfect sense, because their favorite game mode is the campaign mode and the story that unfolds there. So obviously the guardians that they bring into the game need to fit in there somehow, and the direction of that story. I also found out that it takes quite a long time, actually, for these guardians to be created. So from conception to just, all right, this is who we're going to make now. From that point to when there is a playable character, I've heard all different types of timelines for different games and things like that. But for this game here, it takes, if I remember correctly, Mark was mentioning, it takes 6 months just to get one guardian going. And they have planned these guardians out 18 months. So they already know 18 months out who the guardians are going to be. So that's pretty cool. And that just kind of proves to you, too, if it takes 6 months to create one guardian, first, how big is their team to do that? And like I said, I've been playing this game for over 2 years, so how much stuff was happening behind the scenes to create this runway for them before the game even went into beta in, I think it was, March of 2020, somewhere around there. So they've got this big roadway, they've got this roadmap, so very curious to see, very excited to see where this game goes. So although they couldn't tell me that Gargoyles is coming, I did hear from Mark saying that Demona would be very cool to come to the game. But can you imagine the art department? That's something else we talked about as well. The art department for Kabam is absolutely amazing. The visuals that they create is awesome. But can you imagine what they can do with Demona? Oh my gosh, that would be absolutely awesome. All right. Beyond this, we just had a couple more questions for them. And so I asked Mark and Danny, which guardians would they want to see come to the game? And Mark did mention Demona, so that was pretty cool. And Danny had mentioned Bambi, which I thought was pretty cool as well. Talked about kind of maybe the special, where Bambi like slides on the ice and kind of spins. That could be Bambi's special. But that was pretty cool as well, just to kind of see who they would like to see, because they are players of this game as well. Like I said, there was a lot of passion and excitement about the game and about the community, and the conversation was awesome. I just wish that you could have heard it from them. So definitely a lesson learned for me going forward. Another question I had asked them is just kind of looking beyond Rift Raids and Relics, what's next on their list to bring to the game? And it's really just, for the most part, what it comes down to. Obviously, they couldn't really tell me much, but it's more about content that's going to bring people together, and competitive content as well. One hint that Danny did mention is that we may want to definitely invest in sustaining guardians. So I took that as maybe some good supports that help sustain the team, or tanks that can sustain the amount of damage that's coming in as well. So maybe we can get a little more details on maybe some specifics on that one, but that was a little hint that Danny did drop as well. So that was my interview with them. Had a great time talking with them, learning more about Rift Rage. We found out some cool little nuggets about the energy thing, something to keep an eye on for that. The required traits, eventually getting to a point to where you're going to need 2 for each guardian. That is required. So found out a lot of cool information about the game. Also a little bit more about Danny and Mark, which I thought was cool as well. It's always good to get to know the developers a little bit because, again, you know, they play the game. Also, they're very interested in the feedback from everybody. So that's one thing I do have to say. As we continue to move forward with this game and evolve and see different game modes and things like that, definitely make sure to go to their Discord, provide feedback in a constructive way so they can take that feedback and take it back to the team and see what makes sense, right? Because there's going to be a balance there. It's still a business, but what can we do for the community that's good for the game as well? So, and vice versa. So that was my interview. There's a lot to talk about our time in Rift Raids. Again, we're going to talk about that tonight, September 26th on tonight's stream. It's 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Keep an eye out on the channel. I'll put some announcements out today as well. But definitely let me know, what are your thoughts about the interview? What are your thoughts about the answers that I was able to get from Kabam? And what other questions do you have? Feel free to leave them in the description, in the comment section below. So there you go, everybody. That is what I had for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it, getting to know a little bit more about the game and what's coming. And that's everything. As always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.